Hi, this is another episode of DIY Dad. Today I'm going to be putting in, or actually replacing, some laminate flooring in my home. So 16 years ago I put in laminate flooring, and at the time I put in some cheap laminate, and it was kind of a kind it would snap together and you'd put some glue in there, and over the years it's gotten chipped and it's buckled and so forth. So it's time to replace it, and so I'm going with something different this time. So this is the color I'll be going with. What I have now is a very light color, which I'll show in a little while. But it has the, kind of the click system here, and also on the back it has this attached padding. Now I've already got some padding down from the previous laminate, which I'll leave, and this will just give me some additional cushioning. So I'm going to be doing this project in stages. First off, I'm going to be doing the room that I'm currently in, which I will show a bit of what's already on the floor. So as you can see, it's a very light colored, kind of almost a whitish yellow, and it turns out it's way more light than we actually would like, so we're going to go darker this time. I can kind of show the contrast here between what we have now and what we're going to do. So quite a bit of difference. Now what I've already started doing in here is removing the trim boards, because when I initially put in the other laminate, I put it down and then I put the baseboards on top of it. And so what I got was this tool from Stanley, and it works really nice. It's got a very thin kind of wedge on the end, and allows you to get in behind and pull the baseboard off. So I'm going to pull the baseboard off, and then I'm going to I'll put it back on top. So I don't plan on putting any cord around, because I'm actually going to cover up the gap that you're supposed to have between the laminate and the wall with my baseboard. So I'm going to go ahead and continue pulling off the baseboard, and then once I get to the point I start pulling up the floor, I'll kind of show that process. Alright, so I've gotten all the baseboards off and kind of cleared out some of the stuff in this room. And so now I'm going to begin to take up the floor. Now this floor, when it was put down 16 years ago, was glued together. Every seam is glued, which makes it challenging to take it up. So you're seeing this for the first time, so we'll see how this works. I did pop one piece off here, but I'm trying to see how best I can kind of go about this. So it looks like this is all coming up. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, but let's see what I can do here. I can begin to maybe just tear this off. Oh, there we go. So, as you can see, what I've done is this whole section now has come off. And so I'll set that over here to the side. And what you see here below was the cushion that I put in before, which looks like it's still pretty good, so I'm probably just going to leave that down and just reuse it. Maybe no use to really put more down if I don't have to. So what I'll do now is begin to go through, and it looks like what I'm going to be able to do is just kind of lift up on each section and break it off and take it out, and then we'll be ready to probably, after that I'll probably clean up the floor, get all the kind of the dirt and the grime off, and I'll be ready to lay the flooring. Okay, this is my daughter. She's helping me just to show you. This isn't really too bad. So she's going to give me a hand tearing out this floor. So after that first piece, it's not really been too bad coming up. I think now it's just a matter of just pulling them up piece at a time. All right, so we've gotten the floor all torn up, and now I'm ready to lay down the new floor. So this room has actually got some 45-degree angles. So what I'm going to need to do is measure my angle with this tool right here to see how I need to cut this. So really what you do is you set that in the corner like that. You measure what your angle is going to be. And I've already cut the piece, which is right here. So basically what you do is you just put that on there then, and you mark your line and you cut it. So also what I've done is I've put these spacers in here, and these I just cut from some trim boards that I had, and they're around 1/4 inch or so, which is what the instructions said to go with. So I'm going to set this down just like that. And then I've got another piece which I've cut once again with the angle. And I'm going to set that down like this as well. Now, I do have a register here, which I'm going to have to cut around. So what I'll do is I'll get my jigsaw and I'll just cut and notch this out. Alright, this is day 2 of my installation job. And what I realized after I laid the first row, so in the last part of the video I showed I laid a full row here with the full width of the planks. Well, the problem was when I measured from this side of the room over to here, over in the doorway here, I realized where I was going to end up with all my planks was about right here. And that means I would have a small strip here, which I didn't want. So instead of doing that, what I did is each of these planks, the new ones, is 8 1/16 wide. So what I did is I measured over to about right here, calculate how many full planks I would need, and then what I ended up doing was cutting this plank in half. So this is 4 inches. So what that's going to allow me to do is end up about halfway into my doorway on the other side. So in the process of doing that, as you can see, I went through a couple different, I've scrapped out a couple boards, which just shows you that getting the first row right will take some time. So now what I've done is I'm getting ready to put the second full row in, and I've got a register here. So what I'm doing is actually I'm cutting out for the register. So how I did this is I just measured where that register needs to go in here. I drew it out, and then what I did is I took a bit here, which is about an 1 1/8 inch, and I just drilled a hole, and then I used that to kind of start my jigsaw to be able to cut out a place for the register to go. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, get this installed, and then we'll pick it back up. Alright, so from the last time I shot some video, I made quite a bit of progress here. But I do want to go back and just say one thing that I noticed. The last time I spoke about it, I put a 4-inch strip for my first row, which was half of the 8-inch plank. As I started coming out about 3 rows, I realized that it looked like the rows were crooked. So I began to wonder then if this wall was really straight and parallel to the other wall across the way here. So what I ended up doing, and this is something I had to get on the internet and search about, so I want to share it here. I actually measured from this wall straight across to the other wall. And I did that here, and I came down and I measured the same distance here. And what I found is that the distance from here to here was about 1.5 inches longer than it was back here, which says these walls are not running completely parallel to one another. So what I ended up doing in order to make sure when I get over here to this wall that I've got I'm true in terms of being parallel to this wall, is I end up actually cutting off about 1 inch from this side, and then I kind of narrowly came down to here. So down here it would have been 0, and up here it would have been 1 inch, and then I chalked a line between those 2 points and I just cut it off. So therefore when I get over here now, I'm going to be straight as I come up against this wall here. Now what I want to show is how I'm putting this together. Now this laminate is called from a manufacturer called Tarkett, and the way you install this is you take it in somewhat at a 45-degree angle, and so this is the groove and this is the tongue. So the tongue sits on top of the groove. You put it on there, and then you just kind of drop it down, just like that. Now one thing I do is I've got this tool here that has a groove in it, and because they don't always, see if you'll notice here there's a gap there, and I can put my thumbnail or my fingernail in between it, and there I was able to get it to sink in, but then it came out on this other end. But what I'll do is I'll kind of take it and give it a light tap. I do emphasize the word light. That's all it takes really to kind of set it in there. Then it'll sit flat. Then what you do next is we'll need to tap the end here to get it to mate up with this other end down here. So what you do, once again, this has the groove, and that sits right on that groove, and you just tap it. And you'll see down there as it's coming together. Once you go down here and just show that coming together as I'm tapping. And there it is. It's good and snug. Got a good straight line. So it's pretty much like that. You just repeat. You just keep repeating, repeat. And at some point, I'm going to get over here to this wall, and then I'll need to go ahead and transition into the next room, and I'll pick up the video with that. Three, two, one. So here is the flooring job I'm working on. So I got the sunroom, this room all done, and I moved into the next room, and there's my transition from one room to the next. I didn't actually use a transition strip. And I started laying down my rows here, and then I realized there's a bay window here, and when I went to start laying my boards in, I realized they were bending. And when I came over here and checked the levelness on this part of the floor, what I found was it was quite a bit out of level. So as you can see, there's about an inch gap from this point to this point. So what I'm going to have to do is actually level this off and add some filler in this area to make this flat. So what I'm using is this called Versa Patch, latex modified floor patch and leveler, and I'm going to mix it up using that the mixer on the end of my drill, and then this is going to be a thicker type of a leveler, so I'll be able to use a flat edge to fill in the gap and level it off. Here's the first layer of this leveling compound. It says to apply it in small increments because I'm going to have to go up to about an inch in thickness at the very edge. And during the process, my mixer broke, so it was a little clumpy, but I'm going to have to go buy a mixer and do another layer on this. Alright, here's the second layer I put on. This one went a little smoother. I got a mixer that replaced the one that was broken. And so what I'm doing is I'm just running a 1x4 across the top with a level and just filling it in. I put some boards along the edge to make sure I have a gap between the leveler and the wood behind there. So I'll probably do one more pass just to kind of make sure it's all nice and smooth, and then be ready to get back to laying the floor. Okay, so here's after I applied the leveler underneath, and I have begun to put the laminate back on. And if you look down here, what I've got is pretty level now. So whereas this before was quite a drop off going this direction, now it's good and flat. So now what I've started to do is I'm actually transitioning into the kitchen at this point. So I had to come out here around this island. And so I did is I just started laying my planks, staggered them to this point, wrapped a piece around the island into the kitchen, and I took 2 planks straight across the middle of the kitchen. And what I'll begin to do now is to build out from here over to there. And I'll have to make sure, I believe I'm going to have about 4 planks in between this one and that. It's about 32 inches and the planks are about 8 and that's 16. So I might have to trim off a little off the edge. Now once again, I'm coming around this bar area into the kitchen, and I'm having to work from the center because that's where I came across from the opposite side over here around the corner, and I'm having to work from this way into the edge, which means I have to apply the boards in reverse order as I had been placing them with this corner going in and down. Now I'm actually having to go with the other side, and it's pretty straightforward. You just slide it in and then down, and what I've got is a little tapper. I give it a little tap to kind of snug it up. Then I'll just keep working across over to this side. So here's the progress I've made. As I mentioned earlier, I worked from the center out towards that wall, and I didn't actually plan it this way. Well, I sort of did. I knew it was 32 inches from that middle plank over to the edge, but it really worked out really nicely because I just got one whole plank that's going to slide right down in there. It's 8 inches wide, 8 and 1/16. So that worked out really well. Then I'll have to kind of go back there, and that's where the stove goes. And then I'll turn around and I'll work the other way to the other wall. I've still got some of the old flooring underneath the refrigerator I need to pull out. But it's coming along pretty good.